This week, me and Dan Abramov from the React team hosted a live stream on Twitch. Dan taught me how to use React hooks, which is something that I've never tried before. We had a lot of fun, ran into a lot of little pitfalls that were interesting, and I actually got how to do it. Thank you so much everyone that joined the stream. It was absolutely crazy. It was so many of you. We had a blast. If you missed the stream and you're sad about that, don't be. I do these pair programming streams every Monday, 7 to 9 a.m. Pacific time. But you will forget that, so you should go to twitch.tv/funfunfunction and hit that little follow button, because then you will get reminded by a notification in the Twitch app when we go live. Before we jump into the recording of this Monday's live stream, I would like to thank this week's sponsor, Brilliant! Brilliant is this lovely website where you can learn lots of concepts, but I'm particularly interested in the computer science, mathy concepts that are often so hard and boring to learn. And Brilliant has these interactive challenges of escalating difficulty, which makes it feel a little bit like a game, and that makes them very unique and very special. And such a nice place for me to send you people if you been procrastinating a little bit on learning like, the ML math and stuff like that. You should head over to brilliant.org/FFF and check them out after the show. By the way, make sure to use that link because it gives you 20% off their annual subscription. Thank you, Brilliant. Now over to the recording of this Monday's live stream. Good Monday morning. It's morning for some. It's not morning for me or Dan because you're in London, right?
Yeah, but then I wake up pretty late, so like in a way it is kind of morning-ish for me.
What? Like it's
like 2 p.m.
Oh, so you wake up at 2 p.m.
Well, no, but like I wake up at like noon.
All right.
I get work.
Oh, nice. That's smooth. What we wanted to do with this new stream format is to create like a more relaxed environment where we sit around and chat and have like have a good time and focus a little bit more on the messy parts of development, because a tutorial tends to be like just do these and these and these steps and everything goes smooth, and once you actually try it yourself as a new developer and when you hit reality, it's not necessarily so smooth. So therefore I like this form. This is the idea with this format is basically to do exactly what we do now, where I don't really know something but I want to try React hooks and I have someone around to help me do it, but I really don't know anything, I haven't prepped much. So the actual idea is to run into problems here. So if we run into technical problems with create React app or something, or with something that I don't understand because the cognitive thing, the idea is to dwell a little bit on those. So the failure and learning from failures, the
yeah, I think the interesting thing about hooks is they're fairly recent, and my last few months have been like this, which is I'm used to answering people's questions about React, and I kind of know React pretty well. I haven't worked on it for 3 years, but hooks are new to me too. And for the past few months, whereas normally when people ask me something about React, I have prepared answers because I just I ran into them before, and I've already thought about them before. Whereas with hooks, it's somebody asks me and I'm like, I don't know, I need to think about it. And it's been the past few months have been like this for me, and this is why I've been working on this FAQ in the docs and stuff like this, because it's the first time for everything, and maybe you'll run into something that I don't actually know how to solve, and we'll need to think about it. So that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, let's hope for that. Let's hope for breakage.
Yeah.
We can start by explaining what it is that we're gonna try to do today.
Okay.
We don't know. We are not sure exactly, so what the app is gonna be, but we're gonna build an app with React and with hooks. Maybe we start like by building it like we start by approaching like the traditional way, and then like explaining how we would do this traditional in React, and then like how to do it in hooks. Maybe we're not sure. It's gonna be quite freeform, but yeah, give us some suggestion on what kind of app you want us to build. Like otherwise we'll punish you with a to-do app.
What is a cat app? I don't know what is a cat app.
Yeah, what is cat app?
Like did they Tamagotchi or?
Is it like? Did they mean to write shut up? Build a virtualized list, task management app. No. Build Twitch, cat Tinder, walking dog app.
Create Facebook. I'm not sure I'm legally allowed to
rebuild Facebook.
Yeah.
Replace Twitch, tic-tac-toe, social network. Build Tetris.
Oh, actually, like I know people might kind of disagree with that. I think tic-tac-toe could be interesting because we have this tic-tac-toe tutorial on the React website, which is built with classes.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually tried to translate it to hooks, but it might be interesting to try that because the some of the like the way it feels is a little different.
Yeah.
But like a lot, the problem is a lot of people think, oh, like tic-tac-toe, it's not at all like representative of real apps. But in practice, like the techniques that tutorial goes through are actually like pretty fundamental with like lift and state up and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So it could be interesting to translate it to hooks. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, but I love that idea. Let's go for that. It's decided. We're building a tic-tac-toe game. In a little while. First, it's important to introduce who you are, Dan. Like there might be one person that don't know who you are. So like I want to talk a little bit about that. I think that a lot of people know you as a Redux person. That has been like how you have been typecasted. But I would like to know a little bit, like what did you do before you ended up being the persona that you happen to fall into as it stands now?
Right. So I mean, so like my name is Dan. I work on the React core team. I work from London, so we have some presence in London. Together with Sunil and Dominic, and soon Rachel, she actually just announced that she'll be working on React documentation, stuff like this. Rachel Neighbors, so it was not an April Fool's joke. It's actually for reals. Right, and so I co-created Redux, Great React App, maybe something else. I haven't actually worked on anything other than React itself for a while. I've been on React team for like 3 years. And before that, so like for a while, I was just like working on product that like at a startup that like, nobody knows about. And yeah, and then I started working on React.
So like, do you have a computer science background?
No, I don't. I was just like building things with. I started with Visual Basic.
Yeah, well, technically, like that was one of my first ones as well. In many ways it was a dreadful language, but I remember having a lot of fun with it. It was just very very satisfying for some reason.
Yeah, I think it's still unsurpassed in some ways. I hope that maybe a Framer X will eventually get there and like other tools, but I think the real cool thing about it was just how direct it was.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like you can drag and drop stuff, but I don't even think the drag and drop aspect was as important as just seeing what you work on in real time and having full introspection. Like you could drag any control, which is basically a component, right? Like you could drag any component onto the form, and then you have a list of all its properties, so you can just like fiddle with it and like say, oh, what does this property do? And you could just like change it. yeah, I think it was a pretty awesome environment.
Yeah, I agree. It was lovely. I mean, it wasn't. It was weirdly positioned in the fact that it was hard to build like proper real software with it. I think that we need some kind of like good prototyping thing that translates well to convert to a real app. And it's still like I agree with you. Like Framer X is like interestingly positioned to do that, given that they generate React apps hypothetically.
Yeah.
So, what was the first thing you ever programmed?
So the first thing was it was like it was like not a project or anything. It's just like the first thing I remember, which was like a form. So I think I was in school at the time, and we prepared for like federal tests or something like this. So like there was a bunch of like every day we would learn these template questions, like how do you like I think it was English, it was probably Russian, English, and maths or something like this. And so they were all in the same format where it's just like one choice out of many. And so the first thing I remember doing was like dragging this like option, like a group control where like I put the question and then like 4 options, and like I copy pasted it a few times. And then I wrote a thing that like calculates the score, which was basically like if the first like answer is like this one plus I plus 1, then like if the second one is this one, I plus 1, and then it showed you your score. That's the first thing I remember doing.
React Hooks has it's the birthday of React Hooks, so it was like yesterday or something like that?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
I was actually thinking that we should celebrate that. I was about to like get a cake, but they didn't have cake, so instead like I got a semla.
Nice.
Have you ever had one of these?
No.
It's a typical Swedish pastry. It's like cream and some gunk in the middle, and like we have to make. I'm gonna try to make this a birthday cake with one of these things.
I think it's fitting that it's Swedish because Sebastian is Swedish. He came up
really?
with React Hooks. Yeah.
I didn't. Sebastian who? What's his name?
Mark Bogge.
I'm gonna see if we can do this without setting the building on fire. Come on. Wow! Jesus fuck! I wonder how long this burns.
You're okay?
I was a bit shocked. It like it popped in a way I didn't thought it would. So, React Hooks, congratulations, happy birthday. I was thinking about singing the happy birthday song in Swedish, but the problem with that is that it says like, may you live for 100 years, and we really don't want APIs to live for 100 years.
I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, oh god. Alright, so, yeah, oh god. I was afraid of this. No. These are so good, but they're impossible to eat.
Okay, it worked.
I
see some Docker file. I don't know what.
Yeah. This is just a project I was trying out.
Oh, cool.
So I figured that we should. Do you see my terminal as well?
Yes, I do.
Oh, sweet. So I figured that should we just start with create React app? Is that how we start this?
Sure, that sounds like a good idea. Create
React app and like tic-tac-toe, I guess.
Sure.
Tic-tac-toe. Oops. Tic-tac-top.
Well,
that will keep that mistake.
Okay. Tic-tac-top. It's the best tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, exactly.
Top one. Yeah.
Precisely.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let's start with the same So I'm gonna paste you a link to CSS and to JS, and so you can copy them into the app. So this is the link to a code pen.
All right.
Can I see your browser? Is there any way for me to see what the app actually like? Your browser, basically.
Yeah, like when I start running the app, you're gonna get access to it via localhost. So it's gonna like.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Let's see here. Gonna. So let's.
Are you supposed to be typing something? Because I don't see anything.
No. Right now I am. I'm looking at the link that you gave me. So what should I be copying this?
So maybe you can start by just like running the server in the created folder so that we can actually see like the default app and then tweak it.
Let's see that. Hang on. I think that I'm gonna have to re-share this session.
Okay.
Hang on a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Start collaboration session. There we go. Copy again, and I will send it to you over Skype. There we go. The code pen that Dan sent me, I'm gonna paste that into chat as well, so that you get it. So you can follow along. Cool. And I'm gonna throw that away, and we're gonna change to TikTok. There we go.
How do I know which file you're opening? If you are opening,
I'm opening app.js, I suppose.
Okay, I can see you.
There we go, and see so that we don't cover too much of the code with our heads. I'm gonna make our heads a little bit smaller in the Twitch stream because we're covering a lot of code. Hang on.
Can I also like run the app?
Let's see. I think that like it's kind of like me running the app. So let's see if I do npm start, right? See what happens. All right, that jumps there. Let's see.
Oh wow!
So now you get it, and now you can see it on localhost, I think.
Yep.
It's a really cool product, I think.
Wow, this is so cool.
There we go.
Awesome.
All right, cool. So how do we? Should we edit this a little bit to save? I'm just gonna edit the code here and whoops. Edit the text a little bit here and see that it reloads. Yep. It removed the text.
So let's replace this by the thing that I sent you. So specifically, let's copy and paste the CSS part of that link to like index.css.
All right. Let's see.
And the JS part to source index.js.
All right. So let's do this here. Pasting it in the index.css, and then we jump back to the JS part, and I'll be jumping into the app.js.
So let's move it to index.js.
Okay.
If that works. So we can just delete app.js. Let's do everything in source index.
All right, so I'll just delete everything here.
Yeah. Well, not everything. Can you show me the JS part? So everything after imports. Leave the imports in, but let's delete everything else.
All right, cool. Let's dump that out and then. All right, it's compiled with warnings, but it compiled. Let's see if it still works. Yeah, it does.
So let's also remove import app and the service worker stuff. Yay.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, it's actually, God, Visual Studio is so good. It just shows me that is a problem. All right, cool. And it still works. Brilliant. All right, so what is my objective here?
So our objective is to make a tic-tac-toe app. So there is this tutorial that we can kind of go through, but it uses classes. I'm not sure if we actually care about like reading it at all, or if I guess like it makes sense as a general like as a rough guideline. So let me just copy and paste the link tutorial. So this is kind of the starting point where we started.
Okay. Hang on.
Oops.
Cool. I'm pasting this link into the chat as well so that you can follow along. Okay. Cool. So we're looking at passing data through props here. Class board extends React component, a render square, and we return. Yeah, we return a square component with value set to whatever we pass into the render square function.
So maybe one thing we could start is we could just start by converting to functions instead of classes. Yeah, like even the initial code, because currently the initial code uses classes, but we want to see what is it going to look like if we just use functions.
All right, that's a good idea. So I'm jumping into the code here, and let's see, I'm going to close this terminal to give us a little bit more space. Yeah, so we have a class square, it extends a React component, and it contains a class inside the class?
I don't think so. It's just a messed up indentation.
No, it's an indentation. All right, cool. It's hang on.
Let me convert.
Hang on. Can I just install Prettier here?
I don't know. I mean, you can add it to like Visual Studio.
I think I can perhaps just have a. Can I just get it to format selection? Perhaps it does that.
Yeah, there is something called format document.
Format selection.
Oh, sorry. I just
there. Thanks. All right, now it's all right. Cool. Now it's formatted. So this square, this doesn't really need to be a class at all. This could just be a function, right?
So with hooks, everything can be a function. So we can just use functions and see where that leads us.
So how do I do this? I'm just gonna see if I remember how to do this.
We can use function declaration if you prefer. Like it doesn't really matter if you use like const and arrows or function declarations, whatever you like more.
So let's just, I'm not sure what's the naming convention of these things is, but if I just write like render square and I just copy this part here and.
So the naming is the same, like you would just remove the render here and it would just be square. Yeah, that's
like that.
Yep.
And then like that is that is the equivalent of, oh hang on, I'll remove this.
I can just delete it.
Yeah, so this is the equivalent of this.
Yep.
That's so much nicer, really.
Yep.
All right, I'll remove this square, this class garbage.
Also, let's not hurt the feelings of people who like classes. I think there are like legitimate use cases, but
the thing is, like, I've already driven them away in my audience, but perhaps now you're bringing them back into, like, I'm the class offender.
yeah, it's just like I think like classes work great for some more kind of imperative use cases, but in case of React, it like components don't really quite match how classes work, and I think hooks are a bit closer to that conceptual model. So, well, we'll see about that.
Yep. Hang on. Just gonna do a thing. All right, let's see. Board here. This is a little bit more complicated because this is two functions.
Right.
Try to make it a little bit more smooth so that we can see all of it.
Mm-hmm.
No, now nobody on phones can see it. So it has a render square function that is used here. I guess that they use this so.
So the plan is to use the index argument. We just don't use it yet, but we will.
Yeah, exactly. So this is an incomplete example, right?
Right.
Because this doesn't pass anything in here at all.
It's just a starting point.
So, like, my initial impulse here is to fix the render square function, but should we do that later, perhaps?
Doesn't really matter. Like, I usually start with with the top level, and then I convert them one by one.
All right, cool. So let's see me just find my mouse cursor. So let's. I'm gonna convert the top level. I assume you mean like the render function.
Well, yeah. I usually just like remove the class word and write function instead, and then I remove the extends and just turn that into parents.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. I'll do that. This was called board.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then you can remove the indentation, like the render stuff, because it just becomes the part of your like main function.
Oh yeah, so I'll just dump this out here.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it complaining here? Oh yeah, because this is not a function. So right. So this I think that this should work, right?
Well, not quite.
No, because because we're referencing this here. We need to get rid of that. Now it should be in the same state that it was prior to the refactoring, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I'm gonna switch back to the browser and check. Yes, I think it does. So jumping back into the code, but it's not right now. This code here. It's now we this little
So the
I here we're not forwarding that yet.
Right. So the first thing that the tutorial does, like if you open the tutorial again, the first thing that it wants you to do is to show numbers in the squares. So this is not like actual tic-tac-toe yet. It's just a way to show how to pass values down as props. So if you scroll just a bit further, it has a screenshot of like what we want to achieve.
Yeah, so we see this before next player X, and then after we want to see the numbers. Okay, yeah, but that gives me a good objective. So I'm jumping back into the code, and we're just gonna try to pass this thing in. I need to figure out what this square prop is. It doesn't have anything yet, so we need to add a property to square.
Mm-hmm.
How was it like? Does square take a props object? Is that how the API looks?
Yep.
So I guess that I'm just gonna do it without destructuring first.
Sure.
And then like I guess props and just call it a number.
Sure.
And right now it's not doing anything yet, but if I pass number in here, the I, then it does what we wanted. Then I can just also do that little bit of destructuring, because destructuring is cool. And we have the same result.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel good about myself now.
So the next step is we want to remove the numbers, and instead of numbers, we want to make it so that you can click on an individual, like on an individual field, like on a cell, and it would show an X mark. Okay.
Sweet. So we need to go back and figure out is there some kind of on-click handler, or do we need to create that? We need to create that, right?
So maybe the first thing you could do is maybe even before we add local state, maybe you could just like show an alert on click.
Oh yeah, that's good. So let's try an on-click handler here, and I'm just gonna dump it completely inline here. Alert. Wow. What was that even? And just happy birthday React hooks.
Okay.
There. And I'll go back to the screen, and I'm gonna click the square, and absolutely nothing happens.
Right.
That. What is? I'll see. Why not? What could be wrong here? So the square, perhaps like this square doesn't really have the on-click. The on-click handler perhaps needs to be on the actual button. Yeah, because it can't. Yeah, because this would just pass on-click as a property.
Yep.
And I guess we could pass it like as an on-click property here, but that seems attach it onwards, but that seems pretty convoluted. I'm just gonna move it down into square, at least for now. See where we go from there. All right, jumping back to the screen, see what we have. Yes. Okay, due to screen capturing issues, we cannot see this. Hang on, I'm gonna instead do a console log, honestly. Console log, bimp. And now it works. Now we get a console log there. That is awesome. We know how to make things happen on click.
So now we want to make that specific cell that you clicked, that square. Now we want to add some local state to it.
Oh, this is interesting. So here is where like a functional component would pre-hooks, we would need to turn this back into a class, right?
Yep.
So, but here there is like new hooks things. Like there's some I have like looked for 5 seconds at hooks, but I know that there is a set like useState or setState function.
useState, yep.
Yes. So how do I use that? Where does it come from?
So it comes from React, so you can like destructure it from the React import. You can add comma and then
like this.
Yep.
useState, right? And then I guess I'll call it in the rendering here. So like I'm gonna is this constant? Constant, and we can event something here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like count x is clicked, perhaps.
Maybe, so the tutorial uses, I think it calls it just value, and it uses like X and O as like capital letters, as like strings. Okay. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but like that's one option.
All right. Well, we'll stick with that. Maybe I'll.
Yeah.
But you state this is does this return? Will this return X now?
No.
Or
so it returns a pair, like a tuple.
All right.
So it returns the value and a thing that can set it. So like set value.
Oh, okay. That's funky. Yeah, but it makes sense. So the initial value is going to be X here, before we had ever called set value on it, I suppose.
Yeah, but you probably don't want that, because then the whole board will be like X's.
Yeah, so
you just want it to be like null or empty string or something.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna set it to empty string. Actually, I'm gonna make it like illustrate the mistake that you just mentioned.
Okay.
First, so here I'm gonna call it value, and then we're gonna have a look at the screen, and yeah, it's exactly like you said. We just get a bunch of X's, which isn't at all useful. So I'm gonna set the default state to empty string, and now it's empty. That's nice. But then on click, we want to set the value to X, which I suppose I'll just change it, like set the value to X. See what this does. Jump back to the screen and clicking. Oh, X. This is so smooth, man. I like it's. I love it.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is. Like it's so satisfying because it just functions. No bind and no. Oh, it's so nice to not have to do the bind dance. Yeah. Whenever I introduce a new person to JavaScript and front-end development, like some JavaScript. Like some Java developer that wants to do this, is like the whole class thing with making sure that this is referencing the correct thing is horrible. Like it's I'm so embarrassed. Yeah, it's so incredibly complicated, and this is like this improves things so much. I love it. Okay, so what is our next objective?
So our next objective is to actually be able to calculate like to show different like x0, x0, and to be able to calculate the winner. So one prerequisite to that is that so we can't have the individual squares store the state anymore, because we actually need to know their values, of all of them, to decide like what's going on in the game.
Yeah.
And so the way you do that in React is that you lift the state up. So we want to move the state of all cells into the board, so that we can make decision based on all of that state.
All right, interesting. So the board would then have to do. So how would we do this? How should we model the state of the board? Like, should we do it as an as a kind of grid, I suppose?
So it seems like just a plain array would be simplest, because you already have the like you already know how many of them.
Yeah, we know the size. So yeah, that's true. So let's call it. I'm just gonna call it. How was this again? Board. Oh yeah, we use the state function. So I'm gonna call it state. Set state.
They want to call it maybe squares, so that it's clear like what that state actually is.
I kind of like the fact that it's called set state because it prevents exactly this, what I was about to do, like skipping naming the state. Set squares. Use state. And I guess this is, should we just have it as an empty array or like an array of strings?
We could have like an array of 9 nulls.
All right. All right, let's see. No.
That works. You can also use array fill, but this is also workable.
Yeah. Let's actually, like, array fill, like, I didn't know that it existed.
Yeah, I mean, I think I learned about it, like, either from our tutorial or something like this.
So I just feel like
it's not exactly. Yeah. It's like you can give it the so first it's like an instance method on the array itself. So like you can create an array with 9 items and then fill null. So that's gonna be that.
All right, so it's something like
I think it doesn't even need new because it's like just array is still gonna like create one.
All right.
And JavaScript is funny.
All right. I'm just gonna hang on. Starting. All right, screw that then. Okay. So we now have squares, which is an show code. I was showing the wrong thing to the stream. Sorry about that. We have an empty array of strings. An array of nulls, of 9 nulls. And we want to loop through this on every render, I suppose, and show them. So let's try to do that.
I mean, we already have the code to render the squares, so I don't think we need any extra code there.
Oh no, you're right. No, you're sure? Yeah, exactly, because we are showing the rendering the indexes here. Yeah, we don't need to create a loop at all. So instead, we need to pass the state down into, like the squares state, down into our render square function.
Right.
We could either cheat by using this closure here and pass it in, or we could pass it in everyone here.
No, it's fine to use the closure. Don't overcomplicate it. Yeah.
Yep. Squares. And then square has access to squares, and we can then do. So we have a number here, and we can then do squares. Oops. Number. See how this looks. Right, so now it renders completely empty, like that we would expect. Let's see if we set this like on click, then we would want to set. Now we want to set the value of the squares. I guess I could pass down set squares to the square function, but is that a good idea?
It seems like you're passing, like you're given too much power to every individual square, because like a square shouldn't be able to toggle other squares, right? And it shouldn't even know the values of other squares.
No, so perhaps we should just expose a clicked function on the square.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna on click.
And the same goes for like number and squares. You don't actually need to pass both of them. You can just pass the value of a specific square.
Oh, that's true. Let me fix the onClick first. Let's see, I can just do...
You can just pass onClick itself.
Yeah, I can, like...
Yep.
Like that. All right, then now square is stateless again.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna
Yep.
Gonna do that, and we're gonna jump down here. And now we're gonna like set the value of the square to squares. Whoops.
Yep.
Squares I. And then we're gonna have, don't need that anymore. I'm not passing that down anymore. And the onClick, new property that we now have, is going to do things. It's going to, that is actually gonna set the squares. Perhaps, oh, this is a little tricky. Let me do it naively first and see what you think about this. Squares dot squares I equals x. Okay. Set squares to squares, and something like this. This is unterminated regular expression. Whoops, what did I do? Okay, I need another curly bracket. Okay, what happens now? No, clicking, it does nothing.
No.
Crap.
No.
No, doesn't. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to the code and see what we can figure out. So set squares. What is happening here? What, like, I'm just gonna verify that it actually is rendering correctly. Like what happens if I add x? It is, no, it actually is rendering the state correctly, so that's not the problem. It's my setting code that is the problem. So we have squares here. This is definitely correct. Because we know that this is rendering the stuff. And then I'm trying to here set like the clicked square here, like the equivalent to x. And then I'm trying to set the squares to like this new array that I have.
Is it a new array?
Good question. Yeah. Wait. What is this even? I'm gonna console log the squares out and see what the heck it is. All right. Let's look at this thing, and then we click. No. All right. So squares is, oh, interesting. Squares is just a single array here, like an array of a single x. This is not at all what I expected it to be.
I think it's just how DevTools shows it. It's not like actually. It's like it. I think it does have.
What if I didn't do this? What if I didn't do this set here? and I'm just console logging out.
I see what's happening.
Let's click. Okay, this is now an array. Okay, it's null, 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 null. I go back and I'll go back and do the set and click.
I think you need to look at the log a bit more closely.
At the what?
At the logged value, like when you initially logged it.
When I initially logged it, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I'll remove the squares thing here, and now we are looking at the log value again.
Mm-hmm.
So is it an array? Oh, hang on, it's an array of arrays. Hang on, there we go. This is, hang on, I didn't show my mistake. I have these brackets around here, right?
Yep.
These are messing things up. I was accidentally adding those. All right, let's see again how, so now this looks okay. I'm gonna go back to the code. I'm gonna try my original solution again. See what happens. Pluff, pluff, pluff. So console log actually looks pretty good. But it doesn't actually render the thing. That's peculiar.
Do you need a hint, or do you wanna?
Good. Let me think a little bit more first. So, array. This should this doesn't. The thing is, this doesn't seem to. If I look at the output in DevTools, it doesn't look like an array.
It is an array. No, the output itself is correct.
Okay, cool. So why does it not render? Nah, I think I need a hint. This is stumping me.
Okay, so you said this is a new array at some point. Why do you think this is a new array?
It's not a new array. It's so.
Sorry. Okay. I don't know why the light went out. Yes, you're setting it to, you're mutating the existing array.
Exactly. This is a little bit cheating.
And so React doesn't React used to let you cheat like this with class set state, but doesn't really let you do the same with hooks.
Yeah.
So if you want to change it, you gotta copy it. You gotta make a new.
Oh, okay. So, since this is.
So you can declare next squares or something like this.
Okay, cool. Let's actually do const next. God. A recurring theme on this channel is that I can't type. What's a good way of copying an array? Slice?
Just slice is fine, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you even need 0, just slice. Cool.
Alright.
And also, I don't think you need to create it before you actually need to use it.
Alright, like this.
Yeah.
There we go. And then I'll make use of that.
Sure.
See what we have now. That bam, bam, bam. Works. Awesome. Yeah. Now we have exactly what we had before, except that it's nicely factored. Ish. All right, that's pretty cool. So we now have a centralized state.
Yep.
And we need to start figure out here if I guess we need to put on the next step is to put some circles, right?
Yes. So we want to track if like what the last turn was basically. So we can have like a state variable like x is next.
Yeah.
That is initially true, and then you flip it to false every time you click. Like you toggle it every time you click.
Yeah.
And then you use it.
So perhaps something like then last turn and set last turn and use state and I would say then last turn like we want x to start perhaps, so then like the last turn could be O.
I think it's a bit simpler if you just keep it as Boolean, because then it's like you don't need extra conditions to toggle it. So you can just have like last turn set to like
true.
Yeah, like this is why I said you can use like is x next or something like this. Then you can simply toggle it with a negation when you need to. Yep.
All right, so then the x, let's see, then I could do something like is x next. Then it's x, otherwise it's gonna be O. And then we can set x next to is x next not. There we go. Something like that. Let's see what this looks like. Whoop! Oh, this is so cool. I'm easily excitable. But like I want to go back because think a little bit like how does this work? Because I mean, how does it know which of these it uses? Like this is like what's the mechanics of use state? I think that this confused me the first time I saw it.
Yeah. So it relies on the order of those definitions, which means that the order needs to be static.
I see. So you basically have to, like the use state definitions basically should be at the top of the render function each time in order for it to be easily reasonable.
Like they need to be unconditional, basically, yes.
Yeah, all right.
Cool. So like you can conceptually think of it as being a bit closer to syntax. So like if React was a language, this probably would be a syntax feature where you can have contextual like state and effects. Yeah. But because React is not actually a language, we kind of get away with just this constraint.
All right. That's pretty cool. We are dangerously close to running out of time. And I think that we are at a good point where we actually like used the thing. Is there any kind of like interesting observations that we can use about this? Like things that you want to point out to the community that are normal misconceptions or things here, or should we just walk through what it is that we have learned?
I don't think I have anything in particular that's like not in the docs.
Yeah.
So just go into reactjs.org/hooks, and there's like a sidebar which walks you like through different cases, and especially the FAQ, which is kind of like a bit more advanced level, but the FAQ section, like hooks FAQ, it has answers to like pretty much all common questions I encountered. But I think we haven't really touched on one thing, which I think is actually the most important one, which is custom hooks.
Yeah.
So a large point of hooks is that you can create your own, and that's really the motivate and I think one of the like biggest motivations for this kind of API.
Could we do that quickly?
Sure. Like I need to think what could be a custom hook here. So in the original tutorial, we do that with. So we lift the state up further to allow time travel. So in the initial tutorial, like it shows a list of all the moves you made. And then you can navigate between them. I'm not really sure we can fit that into 3 minutes.
No, but perhaps we could just switch to the browser and show like the audience a little bit of a hint of that, and then they could like try that out for themselves as a bit of a like a homework for like where you could go next with this.
Right. So I think if you go to the tutorial, so if you go to the tutorial page and then you click on wrapping up in the sidebar, that's like the last part.
Yes, I see it.
So if you click on that and you click on the final result, there is a link.
Check out the final result here. All right, cool. All right, so this is a code pen. How do we...
So if you try to play it a little bit, and you... I don't really see it in the stream. Can you like show the result?
There,
because
there we go.
It just shows the code.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay. And so if you click around a few times...
Right. All right, and then I can zoom, like click the individual ones here and zoom back in time.
And so if you click on those, you can go back in time. So what's interesting about this is that if you look at the code in the class version, it's all kind of crammed into the top level component. So if you
the handle click,
if you look at the game component in, so it has this like history state, and it puts things into history when we click, and then it has the jump to method, which lets you navigate between places in the history. And so one thing you can notice is that the logic for the game itself and like the actual logic of tic-tac-toe is being intertwined with this time travel history logic.
Yeah.
And so what hooks let you do is you can actually separate those into two parts. So you can move the game logic into like a reducer, just like in Redux, but without the global store. It's just like reducer for managing local state. And then you can have a custom hook, like use time travel or use history, that only deals with navigating between history states and using reducer to manage that state. So I think an interesting kind of takeaway home exercise is first to refactor it to use reducer, to centralize the state handling logic, and then to implement a custom use history or use time travel hook that lets you jump between those states without like hard coding the game logic into it. I think that could be really interesting.
There you have it. Like the home exercise for like doing what we did here with the basic use state, and then refactoring it and by separating out the time travel part from the game parts instead of keeping it intermingled. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
It was great, and we managed to get something productive in 1 hour. That was awesome. Any final words you want to broadcast to the community?
Read the docs.
That's actually like React has remarkably good docs in my opinion. it's I think it's so common for open source projects to have bad docs that people just assume that the docs won't be useful, and that the best thing is to just start hammering away at the thing. But
I mean, that's also like a fine approach, but I just want to emphasize that like docs exist and you probably want to check them out, and some of the questions are probably answered there. But it's also fun just to tinker, which is, I think, I really like this tutorial, and like I look forward to when we can actually convert it to hooks, because a large part of this tutorial is just about like moving class methods and like binding and this and objects and stuff, and I think hooks will allow to simplify it a lot.
All right. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. This was wonderful, and thank you so much, Dan, for joining us. Make sure that you follow Dan on the Twitters if you don't already, and remember to read the docs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.